All right, so welcome back to another episode of Let's Grow Podcast, and I have an amazing leader here in Wylie, Texas, joining me today, Mr. Dr. Vinson, the superintendent with Wylie ISD. How are you doing, sir?
Man, I'm great. How about you? Everything good?
Everything's good. I'm blessed. I'm alive. I'm healthy. Business is okay. Business is good. Can't ask for nothing more. Family's healthy, so life is good, man. Life is good.
It's all how you make it, right? And we make it good here in Wylie.
That's it. That's it. So, let's dive in, Mr. Dr. Vinson. So tell me a little bit about where you came from. Are you originally from Wylie? Did you grow up here, or did you, migrate here? Like, what's your backstory?
Grew up in the panhandle of Texas. So we're the tip top, about 30 miles from Oklahoma, 30 miles from New Mexico,
Okay.
and 100 miles from nowhere. So rural community, learned how to farm and ranch and drive tractors and do all those things. And I'm not that guy. I did it because I had to do it, and I appreciate it. Love the experience with Lubbock to Texas Tech, and met my wife there and got a degree in business, actually. Was sitting in the chip factory when we were doing logistics and planning and said, is this what I want to do? And I thought, what do I like? Love kids. And I thought I'll either be a youth pastor or I will be a school teacher. So I chose school teacher, and man, I've just stayed in Lubbock and worked my way to an assistant superintendent. Went to San Antonio in my first superintendency. Loved that in Floresville. And then the last, I guess, the 13th year, where Christy and I have raised our children in Wylie, and it has been the blessing of our lifetime. It's a great place.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. So grew up on a farm. You said you're not cut out for that anymore. That's kind of like me, right? My wife tells me, especially my mother-in-law, my wife tells me, like, look at Matthew's hands. They're just so clean and so pretty. I'm like, I don't do handyman jobs. I don't do any of that stuff. I hire that stuff out. I was like, I can't. I used to, back in high school, I had worked on cars, and then I got out of that and I just kind of lost it. I was the same way.
Well, unfortunately, here's the thing. Because I've been raised that way, I've got to try it first. And so then you have to bring in their experts, was what I've messed up. But it's one of those things where you learn how to do all those things. But it's also the thing of this. I grew up in that small town, and you know what it taught me is how you treat other people is how you're going to be treated. And I had these great role models that were these old West Texas folk that did what they said with a handshake and a promise, and had these incredible values. And they took care of me, and I took care of them. And that sense that I looked for that wherever we move and have for our kids, because that's what Wylie does. We're a big city, and we treat each other like a small town, like it all matters. That matched value is something that you can't maybe quantify, but you can definitely feel.
No, definitely. Like, I think the world has kind of lost that handshake, right? Like, hey, that a handshake is a promise, but sometimes you can still find that in smaller communities, right? Just like us. I mean, like you said, we're a big city with a small town feel, but I still feel that in the business life, especially, like, if I shake somebody's hand, that can be it, right? We don't have to go back of well, all it was a handshake, it was your word. And it's like, that's hard to find, but I think we find that here in Wylie.
Well, what's neat, when you mentioned that, we had the hailstorm 2016.
Yep.
And I was with my family at Chick-fil-A, and I had to leave my family. And literally, we had no emergency services. We had nothing. We were sitting there trying to put the community back together. And my family went back home, and I got home about 4 or 5 in the morning from trying to get everything ready to go. And the community had come together and cleaned out the glass of my home and took care of my family.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I think we were under contract on our house during the hailstorm when we moved to Wylie. So we moved during that, and we were under contract, and thank God, a house was fine. It just needed a new roof and whatnot. But that's when we were moving to Wylie. But it's amazing that you said that, right? The community came and backed, while you had to step away from your family and make sure that the community was fine, right? And I think a lot of times in our industries, in the community, we don't give you enough grace for that. Like, I see it because I see you, during last year, the snow apocalypse, or I remember you
Yeah.
were out on Facebook 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. saying, "Hey, we're over here looking at the roads." Like that's a rare, attribute to, I think, a superintendent that I see you do, and I'm sure the community does as well. And so I applaud you for that. You know, there's sacrifices
Mhm.
that you and your family have to make being at that level of a superintendent, right?
Mhm.
So, one, how does your family support you with that? And then two, where does your mindset go when, like, how do you keep a positive mindset knowing that you have to take care of the entire Wylie ISD, right?
Yeah.
And still sacrifice a little bit.
Well, my wife's dad was a head football coach and a high school principal, and she knows the drill that as far as, this isn't a job, it's a lifestyle. And she knows that when I get up in the morning, I get to work about 6 a.m. And so around 5 o'clock, I'll look at my phone and see if there's any tragedies or anything that are issues or concerns and stuff like, and it sort of starts that way. And she's been married to Christy for 30 years, and she's just the blessing of a lifetime too. And she just is always so understanding. Like, so we had one night free this week, Monday, but every night this week we're going to have something, and she does that with me. And the one thing that people talk about an obligation, but the really cool part about raising your family in the school business is that I got to experience, probably to my kids' chagrin, everything that they ever did. In fact, somebody said that my son was taking a girl to lunch. Well, I was going to see if I could get on the video camera, access cameras to see who it was. I didn't, but I'm just saying, I mean, so the privacy's not there. And so I had to really balance that out. And I talked to my kids a lot about values and the fact that we care, but it did have an impact. And I'm not saying it didn't. They understand the gravity of when things happen politically, that our family's going to get it, and I'm not saying that it, especially in the last few years, that it hasn't adversely impacted them in some way. Now they're very understanding, and life is full of ups and downs, trials and tribulations. And one thing that I tell my kids, teach my kids, and work with my kids, and actually maybe emulate, is that avoiding problems are not going to save you. Learning how to cope with them. And that's what we teach as far as the Wiley way of knowing that a problem is you might need help, but avoiding it is just not going to help it. Let's try to find a way around it. And this community is just so wonderful. I mean, if anything does happen in Wiley, I mean, they build a protective hedge around us. And we try to do the best job we can of explaining why we did what we did, and if there's a problem or this kind of stuff. And we make mistakes, but we have a very gracious and forgiving community. My family's very gracious and forgiving, and ultimately, not the problems you have, it's how you respond to them.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's amazing the way you put it, because I think a lot of even business owners can take away from that. One, this isn't a job, it's a lifestyle. I loved how you
Mm,
put that, right? It's the mentality you go into, because sometimes if you think of it just as a job, you're like, oh, I'm a job, I'm burned out, I get exhausted,
mhm,
or you go home and you complain. But when you talk about it like this is our lifestyle, that just changing those two words is how powerful that is for
mhm.
people, for business owners, for, uh, how they perceive what they do every day. And I think that determines whether you love and you have the passion to do what you do, is
Mhm,
you think of it as a lifestyle, not just as a job. So that's amazing. And I loved how you said about the problems, right? It's not about, how you cope with them, right? Like you said, I've never heard it put that way, but it's true. It's how do you, problems are going to exist every single day, and you can't please everybody, especially where you're at, right? And as a business owner as well, I can't
yep.
please all my clients. No business owner can. There's gonna be problems. It depends on how you tackle them and how you cope with them, that I think make you a better leader, a better business owner, and whatever that is.
Well,
Um,
there's a guy named there's a leading child psychologist named Martin Seligman, and he wrote this book called The Optimistic Child. And there's good parts and bad parts, but one of the things he said in the 60s and the 70s, we started the self-esteem movement. And what the self-esteem movement told our kids is, if there's a problem, avoid it, try to find a way to navigate around it, because in terms that it's pain. And so when you try to teach that, what happens is if pain's bad, and avoid it. And so in Wiley, what we do as far as the Wiley way is teach them grit and preparation of, this is a problem, you're going to have to face it. And ultimately it helps with coping skills. And this, you're going to sell a house and there's going to be a leak, or there's going to be this and that. And if you treat it from the perspective of this is how we're going to deal with it, which you always do, you're great at this. The perspective's different and your mindset's different. And ultimately you grow from the experience. Now I hate problems. Now, don't get me wrong, but there'll be 3 problems today.
Nobody loves them, right? So with that said, what do you do on a daily basis to make sure you maintain a certain level of positivity, a certain level of your mindset, right? Because I think, like you said, we can't please everybody. The community is very forgiving. We make all mistakes. But so how do you deal with waking up every day and still having that mindset of continuing to do what you do for the people that you do it for?
As a Christian, my perspective might be a little bit different, but I have a prayer list right by my computer every morning, and I take that prayer list and I start out with gratitude and being thankful, and then take a moment to look at those folks who might need my help, whether sometimes they want it or not. I'm kind of forceful and kind of pushy that way. I want to see if I can help people, and then put myself in the perspective of what I can give, and then intentionally go to positive things. So the things that energize me is seeing kids. And so I go to every campus every week. So 20 campuses, and it might be 10 minutes, 5 minutes at a campus, but getting a charge to say that. And so I put myself in that mindset of, number one, thinking of others. Number two, realizing how good life really is and being grateful for that. And then number three, find ways to charge and don't focus on the negative. I'll say this, Christy and I have this rule. About 8 o'clock, after 8 o'clock at night, we do not discuss significant things, because after 8 o'clock at night, you're just making poor decisions. And Chrissy's not getting in trouble. I'm getting in trouble. So we don't discuss those issues and problems, because, that's when desperation hits, is in the evenings and at night, and you can't do anything about it. But that positivity is a choice. And the balance sheet, you can make up 90 different things about how this world's going to go sideways. But at the end of the day, you'll find that the person at the Quick Trip had something awesome to say, and you get that charge from them, and it's just how you take it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I love seeing you go to every campus, right? That I think is another positive thing that we in the community see you do, is you engage, you're present. You're not just sitting behind a desk every single day. Nobody knows who you are, or nobody sees you, right? Because when you're at these campuses, when you're engaging, when you're give me my dollar, I don't know if we can say that,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? But things
Yeah.
like that, you make it fun for the kids, and it shows that you truly care about the kids and the community and what's going on, right?
Well, you do the same thing, brother. I see your stuff on social media all the time, and you're asking questions and you're engaging the community, and you give back a ton. And I mean, the first guy to give the Wylie Way Christian Christmas and holidays is you.
Yeah,
And
no,
so I can turn that back on and look and think about the blessing that you are. And, I could think of a ton of folk that have just been equally to that. This world we call Wylie ISD is a community that cares. We had 1,300 kids that needed Christmas.
wow,
You met that requirement. 1,300 kids at $150 a piece. And we met every need in 5 days.
that's amazing. Yeah, and
5 days.
that speaks volumes of our community, right?
It's what they need to make movies about. We should be the Hallmark Channel, man. It's just, I caution parents that sometimes I don't think Wylie is actually reality, because, kids just think that the world's a good place and we're going to take care of you if you need it. And it's not so heartening that we feel that way, but that it can go sideways a little, right?
Yeah, and we don't have a Hallmark movie, but I know Wylie ISD has got some recognition where, other school districts see us and want to mirror that, where I think you had the privilege to go and talk to other conferences or things like that. Am I right? Where they're like, you know what, Wylie's doing it the right way. Let's see what they're doing, because we want to replicate that in our school district, right? Wherever that was. So
the Texas Education Agency is coming to us tomorrow.
Yeah.
And talking about the Wylie Way and about how we can take what we do and maybe replicate that as a state model. But it's not me. I mean, I'm the eye candy. Once I get my hair transplant, I can be on the Hallmark Channel and I can be that role model. But the thing is you know what? My job is taking that light and not shining it on me, but shining it back on all of y'all. And you don't understand the benefit and value. If everybody understood how good it makes you feel, it's just, it's a high no one can experience otherwise.
Yeah, no, and like you said, I mean, it's not just you. You're the eye candy, right? You're the face, but it boils down to doing a great job behind the scenes of having amazing staff, of having amazing principals and teachers, all the way down to our janitorial and our groundskeeping staff, right? It's
Mhm.
ensuring that they have everything that they need. And I think that's what makes possibly your job a little bit easier, right? Because you
Mhm.
have great people in great
Yeah.
places. But that leads from the top, right? You got to be able to view that and be able to coach and mentor everybody everywhere to set the Wiley way and the Wiley example. So, no, I love that. So, what's new? What's going on new? Right? I know we just got over this bond, which was passed. That's going to help our school district tremendously. I
Yeah.
think for the growth that we're obviously seeing and that it's going to continue to happen. So, what do we have new going on in the district?
Well, there's a lot new, and I just got out of a meeting about talking about safety and security, and it's always a highlight. It's always something that we want to work towards and make safety and security more practical, and something that parents understand and can appreciate because it's a lot to ask of our staff. To quite frankly, to everything that you do when you do ID badges, it's harder. When we're talking about doing different things with transportation, making sure that, but the thing is, there's nothing more important than the safety and security of our children. And so that's number one that we're kind of focusing in on right now. The second thing is that we're having to prepare for the state is completely turning over the way that they assess the schools in Texas, and it's much more rigorous, a little bit more vague, and there's school districts that are probably not going to do as well. Wiley sets a state standard, and so we're going to be fine. But preparing for that, what I've tried to do is reach out to the state folks that make these rules and listen to my teachers and kids and parents from our end of the stick and make sure that voice the community concerns, ideas, and concepts, but make that a reality. The other thing too is that one of the things that I've really focused our attention towards now and new is that I want for Wiley to be a place that doesn't come with just problems, but offers some solutions. So say the safety and security of our children and some of these students that need more specific emotional supports that are in our classrooms that don't find success. We're working with some folks to see if we can have some state laws and processes and funding in place to truly benefit that kid therapeutically. Because here's the thing, Matthew, if you can capture them in the third grade and you can help develop their psychosocial behaviors, they're saved. If you wait until later, it's demonstrably more difficult.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a really giant goal that I have, and it's going to involve state senators, it's going to involve legislative people and all these kind of things. But we got to help these babies. We got to help the other kids in the classroom that have the trouble. So that's it. And then the other thing too is how we communicate. We're going to have a brand new website, and
Nice.
here's the thing. The whole website is for you. It's for you as a business. It's for parents. And so they want to be able to access that information. And we want to make it as easy as possible, as proactive as possible, and to meet the needs of social media and all those kind of things. And so coming in June, I think we're going to start the launch of that. I'm going to have a big old picture of myself on the website. It'll be fantastic.
That's awesome. As we go into the website, right, you're going to have like this illusion where it's just your face and say, "Hi, welcome to Wylie ISD."
I mean, again, it's after the hair transplant. I'm lots of plans. Yeah, I think that the face of this district doesn't need to be me, but it's so fun to launch something that parents like. And you know what's great about y'all? We have a calendar, and we got some people's opinions on it. And so some school districts ask for opinions of parents. They don't give them. You don't get responses. We have 3,000 plus responses of this calendar. And I thought, isn't that a great place where people feel like they think that their voice is going to be heard, and it is?
Yeah, no, definitely it is. I mean, that's great how you ask the community, how you ask parents for their opinion, and you take that into consideration. You don't just ask and just put it on the back burner. You look at it and you take these stuff hard and into consideration of what to do. So no, kudos to that. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but one thing I see is how great our ISD is, right? Obviously, that sets the tone, I think, for the community.
Yeah.
But how y'all work cohesively with our, city council, how y'all work with first responders and the police
Yeah.
and PD and all that. how does that make a great relationship, right? Because you bring in three different type of entities in, but they all will still work and collaborate together. So what are maybe one or two things you can tell me of how that happens, right? Because in businesses, we preach of collaboration, networking, right? How you can bring in certain partners and work together for the end goal, but sometimes it doesn't work. But I think y'all do it at a high level where it works. So what are maybe one or two things you can leave our audience with of why does it work or what it makes it happen to work so great?
Well, I'm wrong a lot. And so one of the things that I have lots of opinions on everything. And so because I'm wrong a lot, and I have one mindset that I always say, the school belongs to the community. I am a caretaker of it. And so what we want to do is make sure that have a self-awareness to know that your opinion is not the only opinion. And then secondly, we have a communication process that we have a quarterly meeting with all of our city schools, and they come in and we discuss what we can do together and how it's only one taxpayer. It's amazing when you get those collective group of people together. All the mayors have different personalities, city managers have a different personality. But here's the one thing that we do have is a shared value. We call it the Wylie way, but it's about respecting and responsibility. It's about caring and giving. It's about grit and patriotism. It's about those things that we all agree that are going to make our schools strong and our students ones to be proud to call around.
Yeah.
And when you do that, that's when you have that mindset, there's things that are happening and trouble's going to come. I mean, we're sitting right now. We know that there is a tennis court congestion problem. Well, that's one of the major things that we share. This is the city of Wylie and Wylie ISD. So we're having to tackle that. We have construction dollars that we've set aside that we're going to partner to maybe double the size of that, but it's based on the needs of the community. And it's nice to have a partner that we have the shared values with and that we can build a vision together and on the problems too. So that's the way it goes,
Yeah.
but it's neat to do it together.
Yeah. It's amazing when the values align what happens, right? It's almost magical. So no, I
Think about
appreciate
that though. Think about when you don't share the values of someone else. And I'm not saying their values are bad. I'm just saying that I fit in here, and I think,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that one thing or another. And I'm saying it's bad or it's good. It's just that I share the values of the community.
Yeah, but that's the key to any relationship is right to
Yeah.
marriage, to kids, is you got to have those shared values,
Mhm.
in order for everything to work. I mean, imagine marriages, right? The divorce rates are high, probably because they don't share the same values or they grow apart of those values. So you have to have those similar values to make any relationship, I think, work.
Yeah,
So
we had trouble having kids. So my wife had trouble with miscarriages, and then we actually had two stillborn children. And about 70% of all people that experience the child death end in divorce. And 31 years later, we're here together. And I think Christy and I are very different people in personality, but the values that we share were one. And through those situations, you learn that it makes you stronger as an organization, as a couple. And trouble's going to come a while, but together, as long as we support each other, and you read social media, they point out the problems that I have, but that we solve them together, and we do it in an earnest idea of doing what's best for babies and for our community. It works.
yeah, that's amazing. So last thing, what can we do to help you, to help our schools, to help our community, whether it's a business owner or whether it's just parents and just people out there in general? What can we do to make our ISD better, or how can we help the ISD be better?
Give us the chance to face a problem and email me or my folks, and we're going to let you know and come with us with some proposed solutions. Before we go on social media and ask those kind of things, to notice that's the big, that's a real thing, because we want to solve your problems. And most 90% of the time, and I'll get on social media and someone say, "Oh, that was a problem," and between April Cunningham and I, we solve those kind of things. But it's so much easier, and we don't want you to get hurt during the process. But the main thing is this: find a way to be a blessing to our teachers. You guys, we are losing so many educators right now because this political environment is so charged both ways. In the middle, where the schools are a political football that everyone loves to kick. My mom always says, don't waste a compliment. Always compliment, always encourage, always tell somebody that they're doing something right. And if you can do that, and we want to hear your concerns, we want to solve your problems. But if you can share a little compliment or love on a teacher, man, it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, no, I agree. Every year, well, actually this year with one of our networking groups, we actually threw a teacher event where we gave them to help them out with like school supplies and
That's
stuff.
amazing.
We had 150 teachers come from all kinds of, I mean, we had people from Crandall, from Arlington. It was crazy about that, but it was amazing to see, we're just paying it forward to them. I mean, I always tell people teachers are superheroes too, because they wear some amazing capes, and it's however we can help them, whether, like you said, it's just with a compliment, whether it's just with something like that. Or if you can help them financially, that's even more amazing, right? But it doesn't
Yeah.
need to be just a compliment. I think to tell them, hey, you're doing an amazing job goes a long way to a teacher. So
And we
no,
appreciate it.
yeah, man, we appreciate that too. And we appreciate all your teachers, staff, and everybody. Dr. Vinson, thank you so much for being on. Like I said, it was amazing to hear a little bit of your story and background and things like that. And like, if I can ever help you, or if we can, if y'all ever need help, reach out anytime. And I have
Don't worry, I always do. I
resources.
appreciate
So
you.
we appreciate you. Thank you,
You're a
and have an
blessing.
amazing day. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.